Hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
We're back. It's episode 43 of the Brunch and Judge.
Yeah, it is.
We're your hosts. I'm April.
And I'm Claire.
And this week, we are going to bring you our wild card stories, so you have no idea what fun and adventure we're going to take you on. I promise there's some creep factor in my stories, so you'll want to stick around. But
Ooh.
before that, Claire, what are you judging this week?
You know what? I've had so much Thanksgiving food. I'm just like brain dead up in here. Oh, I don't even know if it was really a judge. I had my 20-year high school reunion
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of dreading it a little.
Fair.
It was
Fair.
one of those because I
Most
was
of those
all
people you haven't seen since you
right because
graduated, really.
yeah, I don't live in a town where anybody that I went to high school with that I mean, honestly, some of these people, like maybe four or five of them I have seen semi regularly. And when I say that, I mean like holidays and special occasions kind of things,
Right.
But other than that, I hadn't seen any of these people probably since I graduated. So I was a little, and I was not like the popular kid. I was weird. I didn't really like fit in to any group.
Any small town high school clique? Gee.
I know, right? Yeah. I was not into any
Mm,
of I just kind
mm-mm.
of flitted around and did my own thing because I was a strange teenager.
Nah.
But anyway, I did go. It was not like I thought in my head because I had like this anxiety about it. But it actually
Mm-hmm.
turned out because I was worried because the people that I really wanted to be there and see were not coming. So I was like, oh great. But I was like, no, just go. And I mean, it's literally like 5 minutes down the road from my parents' house where I was
Mm-hmm.
staying over the holidays. And I was like, you know what? Like you said, make my rounds. If it was just something stupid and I didn't want to be there, make my rounds and then just GTFO.
Yep.
But it really wasn't. I stayed. I drank. It was fun. I talked to people. In fact, I talked to more people last night that I didn't really talk to in high school. And we were just, I mean, had a pretty good time. So
See, that's
not
nice.
not really a judge so much, but like if you have something like this coming up and you were that kind of awkward kid, you might just want to go and see because some people change.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm impressed because like I have obviously missed all of mine because
You're like, I don't care.
I don't care. Um and it's like there are some people that yes, I wouldn't mind seeing them and catching up. We were friends in high school and we're Facebook friends, but we are not close anymore
Right, right,
because
right.
20 years is a long
It is,
time.
yeah.
Um, but like I just have this vision that that group of people that I know would show up that weren't the nicest human beings in high school. Like not like I was super bullied or anything like that. I wasn't, but just like I don't I don't want to talk to them. Like
Right, right.
I don't want to be fake nice and pretend like I care about their pathetic little lives because I don't. And I just have such this weird animosity towards my high school experience that doesn't make any sense at all because it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad. I mean, like
I will
quite
say
honestly, it
though
was fine. I don't
I
have
will
a whole
say though
lot
I
to
was
complain about.
just slightly annoyed because people would be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, are you seeing anybody?" And it's like, "Yeah, I have a boyfriend.
Mhm.
We've been seeing each other for 5 years." And then immediately the next question is like, "Oh, are you guys going to get married?"
And you're like, "Fuck you." I'm
Mm,
sorry. You can keep your small town ideology to yourself.
I know, it's
And you're
just
just like,
like
I don't
I'm
know.
just
We're
like
happy the way we are.
I know, it's just like, eh, you know, meh. It's like, "No, I don't." And they're like, "Oh, what about no, no, we don't want no children. I don't want children. He
Lord.
doesn't
Well,
want children.
and
No."
that's the conversation I think that would make me scream is when everybody's showing because I don't actually like to look at other people's photographs of
You
their
know what
children.
though? There really wasn't a lot of that, or at least not that I
Well, I
experienced.
assume that most of them are a little bit older now. Most people don't have little kids.
Yeah. Now there was one girl
Hmm.
or one chick that I went to high school with and we were talking and she, you know, I was like, "You have a kid now, right?" And she said, "Yeah, she's 15 months old." And her name was Claire. She named her Claire.
Oh,
Yep. And I was like, and she was like, and her middle name's Ellen. And I'm like, that's weird because my grandmother's name is Ellen. And
And you're
she's
just
like,
like,
yeah. No, but she was like, well, her grandma's name is Ellen. That's why we named her Claire Ellen. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet. But I
well, there
mean,
you go.
but she didn't like pull out her phone. There
Right.
really was none of that. Like, let me pull up my phone and show you all my kids. Like, because I mean, I really feel like it runs the gamut as
Mm-hmm.
far as like there are some people in there who have kids that have graduated because
Mm-hmm.
they were pregnant when we graduated.
Well, yeah.
But then, and there are kids, people that I graduated with who, like, this one who just had a kid 15 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I feel like it runs the gamut of
Yeah.
ages of children in,
Well.
that my class has had. And, but there really wasn't a lot of that. And I was actually pleasantly surprised that there wasn't like a lot of like, oh, let me pull my phone out and let me scroll through 900 pictures of my children to show
Mm-hmm.
you how cute they are. There wasn't much of that. And I think honestly, because of Facebook,
Yeah. I mean,
that's probably why, is because if you're friends with them on Facebook, then you've probably seen
you've
their
already
kids.
seen all of their stupid
Yeah.
children. I know. That's
That's
that's me.
probably
As I feel like I've seen everyone's kids and know all of the funny stories of their kids. I'm like, I don't need to hear it again. Thanks. Bye.
right, right. And there really wasn't, I mean, they just talked about their kids. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, I've got like three kids or this, and this, and then that was it. It wasn't like, it was more like asking them, like, where are you guys living? What are you doing now?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So I was pleasantly surprised. I guess it's a good
Yeah.
judge.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
am authentically glad for you because I have built up reunions to be something else entirely.
well, and that was my apprehension, was just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh God, like this is gonna be like high school, it's gonna be, and it wasn't. It really wasn't. I mean, it was kind of sad though because they did have a table for all the people in our class who passed away.
Oh God.
And I mean, because we've had a bunch.
Yeah.
And that's what also is like really kind of sobering, is you're like, these people, I mean, I think the latest one passed in 2020. But it's just like you see all this and you're like, this shouldn't have happened. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of these, like, several of them are sick, have been sick in past, but one of them was, I think she was shot by her dad in a domestic dispute kind of thing.
Oh wow.
Several have OD'd,
Mm-hmm.
um, suicide. I don't even, one of them I think was like a car accident, that kind of thing. But, you're just like, see that table of like all these photos of
Yeah.
people that are
Yeah.
your age that have passed, and you're just like, God, that's kind of sobering too, you know, especially because I mean, we're almost 40, so it's like,
Yeah.
it really shouldn't be that way, So, I mean, but even
Mm.
at the 10-year reunion, they still had quite a bit. I mean, a lot of those people have passed within, I think, 5 years of us graduating high school, college kind of thing. So it was, I mean, that was a little sad seeing that, but the rest of it was, but I will say, a lot of these guys are dating like younger girls now. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, significantly younger. Like, these girls are barely legal to drink.
Gross.
And there were like three or four of them that thought they were at like some kind of college rager. And I mean, they were like sloppy drunk. And it's like, read the room, kids. This is not that kind of party. Like, the most of
Right.
this, I mean, because they did have a bar. It was a cash bar. It wasn't like open bar. And I'm thinking, God, how much money did you spend to get that drunk?
Oh God.
But yeah, overall though, it was a good experience. I got home a little late. I was tired,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a good time. Not gonna lie,
Well,
I had a good
good.
time. See you guys in 10 years. That's really where I'm at with that.
There you go.
Oh, so what are you judging?
What am I judging this week? This week I am judging a 40-hour work week and how much garbage it is.
Oh, preach,
I mean, I say that.
preach.
So we're recording this over the Thanksgiving break. So like I didn't even have like a full work week or anything. Let's not be crazy. But I have also spent a lot of my holiday time off working on stuff for work because some stuff just has a time
Right.
crunch. So like I get that those things happen. But Spencer and I have been discussing like what we want for Christmas. And so this year we've kind of decided that we'd much rather get each other like 1 or 2 bigger gifts instead of like having like 6 or 7 little gifts to open.
Right, right, right,
Um,
right.
and so we've kind of been trying to decide what we want, and we're incredibly privileged to not really want a lot.
Right,
Like
right.
we don't have like one big thing in mind. Like, oh, that's the thing I want. Um, and so we were talking like, Spencer was saying, what he really would like is some way to just magically make his YouTube channel take off. And I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And I was like, I wish I just had more time to like work on things that I care about, because I spend
Right.
most of my time
Right.
going to work, being at work, coming home from work, being tired from work, that
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of time to work on stuff. So like my sister wants to start an Etsy printable shop, and I want to do that with her because I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, like, trying to learn about that kind of stuff and simultaneously trying to make our stuff take off and work on
Right,
it.
right.
I want to do more like backdrop things for us and more like scene changes and more fun stuff because I think it'll make us more interesting. And so,
Right.
like, I was like, all I want for Christmas is more time. And the only way to get more time is
Mhm.
to not work 40 hours a week.
Right.
Because it's not just 40 hours a week. It's an hour to get up and get ready in the morning. It's an
Right.
hour for lunch that I never really get to take anyway. And then it's an hour of commute time back and forth. And then it's, coming home and being tired. And I'm like, fuck this shit. Why have we done this to ourselves? Why do we destroy any chance for like our own happiness just to make
Right.
stupid money that is not enough, by the way. I do not get paid enough for all the stuff I do.
Nobody
So
does. Not
it's
hardly anyway.
like,
Well, it's
right?
like I was watching TikTok last night after I got home from the reunion, and
Mm-hmm.
there was this woman who was talking about capitalism and how it's a game that nobody wants to play,
Nope.
but you're forced to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, because it was like one person, she was responding to a video that somebody was like hating on these people who like don't like capitalism but do it anyway. And she was like, you can't, she's like,
You
you
can't
can,
not do
you, that's what she
capitalism.
said. She was like, you can dislike capitalism, you can dislike the system, but still play the game because you're forced to, because
You
you
don't.
have
There's. It's
to.
like there's no
But you
other
don't have to like,
choice.
yeah, you don't have to
Yeah.
like it, and you can try to like buck the system
Mm-hmm.
if you can, you know.
Well,
And I
and
feel like
yeah.
that's, but I just like look at all these other countries, and it's like they don't have 40-hour work weeks.
Mm-mm.
Like I remember when we went, you remember when we went on that European trip after we graduated college,
Yes.
and there were all these people from like, Australia and other countries who were on the same bus as us going on this trip.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Yeah, I'm on my vacation. I have a month off."
Yeah.
And you're like, "What?" And I
Yeah.
mean, this was in 2006. You know, it was like, and it's like, in what world do you get a month holiday, from wherever? And it's just like that kind of blew my mind. And it
But
is
it's
like,
just.
like my coworker who she was the family that she was a surrogate for,
Mm-hmm.
they come over to the United States in the summertime. They're from Norway, and they come over to the United States in the summertime on holiday for like a month, a month and a half. And they come to Florida because even though they live in Norway, the wife does not like fish. She does not like the cold. She is Norwegian.
Okay.
So they come to Florida.
I
Which I'm
mean,
like,
fair.
kudos.
Whatever.
Right, 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 right. But it's like, they have all this time off that they
Mm-hmm.
can just like, oh, let's just take off and take our children and go to Florida, and we can do
Mm-hmm.
that. And I'm just like, we're lucky if we get 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, technically I get 3 weeks, but one of those weeks is dictated by my boss.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two I usually take for family stuff. So it's like I take one in the summer for family vacation, and then I take my second one in between Christmas and New Year's
Mm-hmm.
because we go to my brother's and I can't drive to South Carolina and back in 24 hours. I
Right.
mean, I could, but
Yeah.
it would
That
suck.
would be awful.
It
That'd
would
be
be
awful.
atrocious, and I would be incredibly crabby.
But I'm just like, even beyond having like a specific month off, but like a 4-day work week and working
Right.
like
Ugh.
35 hours, 32 hours. Like
Mhm. Right.
I literally, and I worked my absolute ass off this week because I've been sick. So like my work has not been up to par. I'm gonna be quite
Right.
honest. Like I will work on something forever and ever, and it just won't. It's not right, and so it takes me longer because I've just not felt well. So like I was killing
Yeah.
myself trying to get stuff done because time crunch. It's like I have to have this done. I have to get it done. I have to send it to the printers, and so like I have worked like a bat out of hell nonstop. But even still, I get up, I walk, I take stretch breaks, I get caught up in a conversation with a coworker, I
Mhm.
mill around for a little bit because my brain needs some time. So it's not like I'm actively working that 40-hour week. Less hours would still be just as focused hours. Like it'd probably be better.
Right.
Like it's ridiculous. And I I get frustrated because I'm like, there's so many things that I'd love to do and work on and, create and cultivate, partially
Right.
as like sideline businesses, but also partially just out of enjoyment and things that I just like to do that I don't really get to do because
Right.
I have to buy food. I mean, like, it's literally just
Right.
fucking ridiculous. So,
Well, and I feel like this time of year is worse because then
yeah.
by the time you get off work, it's already dark outside, and so your
Hmm.
brain is like, "I just wanna go home and do
Well,
nothing." I
and
just because it's dark and you're like,
honestly,
"It's time for bed."
I feel like I mean, not all I have done, but a lot of what I've done over this holiday break, we have slept a lot. Like, we have gone to bed at like,
Mhm.
11, midnight, whatever, but like slept till 10 o'clock.
Yeah, when I texted you and then you were like, "I just got up," I was
Yeah.
like, "Wow,
I was
that
like,
was late for you."
yeah. Um, and again, partially is I've not felt super well lately, but
Yeah.
like Spencer feels fine and he slept with me. So
Right,
it's
right.
just, we're
It's
tired. It's
like your
just been
body
a
is
lot
just like,
lately.
"I'm done."
Hmm. But so that's my judge. 40-hour work weeks are trash.
Mhm.
We're inhibiting creativity and people's ability to find joy in their lives and time for their families or whatever it is that they desperately should be spending other time on. So
Right.
I'm judging that. It sucks. I hate it.
It does, and it really kills me because it's like all these, like, studies have
Yeah.
been done where it's like, it proves
Mm-hmm.
that shorter work weeks are more
Or
just as, if not more productive
mm-hmm.
than 40-hour work weeks, and what does America do? We're like, "No, we're gonna make
Mm-hmm.
it work overtime."
Yep.
I'm like, "Is that extra money worth it, though?" No.
Mm-mm. Well, because the real answer is if we accurately tax the billionaires so that they stop just buying companies and running them into
Ugh,
garbage. Elon Musk, I'm looking at you.
right,
But also Zuckerberg, like he's fucking
right.
over Meta or whatever the fuck that is. Like these idiots who just like got one thing right and we assume they're brilliant. I'm
They're
like,
geniuses, yeah.
if we just fucking tax them enough, then we wouldn't have to do all this shit. But whatever. Whatever.
Right.
Different judge for different day.
Right. You're like,
But
"I
anyway.
digress."
All right. So it is time for us to move over to our topic of the week, the wild card. Now,
Anything goes.
yes, that meant that I got to pick anything, and I have a lot of options. And when we get wild card, which has only happened once before, um, I try and pick something that I don't think would necessarily fall into any other category. I mean, could, but like maybe not like die
Right.
hard. So I bring to you the story of hopelessly devoted Carl Tanzler.
Answer.
Carl Tanzler. I got all of my information from All That's Interesting and Wikipedia because I only needed the two.
Noted. Always Wikipedia.
Now, I will say that Carl Tanzler was born February 8th in 1877 in Germany, and he was actually an Austrian because it's complicated, I guess, in 1877. It was,
Right.
I guess it was Austria-Hungary. I don't know. It's all the weird world
Right.
changes, whatever.
Right, right,
But
right.
he became a physician. He was also known as Count Carl von Kossel, which will come back to us.
Okay.
But we'll just call him Carl Tanzler for now.
Gotcha.
In 1920, he got married to a lovely woman named Doris, also from Germany.
Okay.
They had 2 children. One of them, unfortunately, died of diphtheria. And they ended up moving to Zephyr Hills, Florida, by way of Cuba in the early 1920s.
Interesting. That's funny. I know Zephyr Hills because when we went to camp back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
you meet all these people from like other places. I met this guy from Zephyr Hills, Florida. And it was like one of those where we hit it off. And then, of course, everybody in the youth group are assholes. And then they're
Right.
like, oh my God, Claire's got a boyfriend. You're like, shut the fuck up.
I fucking hate all of these
You're
people.
like, can I not just be friends with somebody? Anyway, I
No,
digress.
you cannot. You
No.
cannot.
Anyway,
It's impossible.
sorry for that tangent.
No, you're absolutely fine. I bet he knows this story.
He might,
He
yeah.
might be familiar with it. Apparently, it's a
Right.
cool thing to know if you're in, like, Florida, but I don't know.
Gotcha.
But apparently, sometime around the time that they moved to Zephyr Hills or soon thereafter, it seems like Carl left his family, his waifu and kids. He suddenly just shows up in Key West, working at the U.S. Marine Hospital as Carl von Kossel.
Okay.
Don't really understand why. Don't know what happened. Just no
Also,
longer
I
in
feel
Zephyr
like
Hills.
I just feel like if you're gonna change your name, you might want to change your first name too.
Well, maybe it's just
Or
easier
is
just to
that
be like, "Hey, Carl." You know.
maybe
I
I
mean,
don't
there's
know.
probably a lot of Carls, but for whatever reason, he's now Count Carl von Kossel, working at the U.S. Marine Hospital, which I find disconcerting because I feel like the
Right.
Marines should do a little bit more due diligence and background checking and not fake names or whatever. But
Right.
whatever. So it's 1931 now, and Tanzler is in Key West, working at this hospital, when he first lays his eyes upon a beautiful Cuban American woman. Her name, Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos,
I
is
think I just realized what this story is now.
she's 22 years old,
Mm.
and he is in love. Like love at first sight, head over heels. But there's a problem. The problem is, well, she's a patient at the
Mhm.
hospital he worked in. The problem.
Yeah.
The other problem is, technically, she's still married. Her husband had left her maybe a year or two before because they had gotten married, she'd gotten pregnant, had had a
Mm.
miscarriage, and then he just
Couldn't
left.
deal.
And so, technically, she's still married. But the bigger problem is that she had tuberculosis.
Sad day.
So, I mean, tuberculosis, not the best disease to have in the 1920s, just
Yeah.
putting it out
No.
there.
Mm-mm.
But Tanzler was not going to be stopped. He knew that Elena was his true love because when he was a child, he had had visions of his future love
Oh
and
Lord.
knew that he was going to be with a stunning dark-haired woman. And so he sees Elena. She's literally the woman of his dreams. Dreams in which his dead ancestor, and I'm going to put ancestor in quotations because he claims his dead ancestor,
Mm-hmm.
Countess Anna Constantia von Kossel, came to him in a dream. I know, right?
What name? Oh Lord.
Bright, right? But she came to him in a dream to reveal the face of his true love, and that face was none other than the face of Elena.
I do. I know what the story is now, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
vomit.
But again, as we know, tuberculosis is not a great thing to have in the
No.
1920s.
No, it is not.
But Tanzler was committed to caring for her and doing everything in his power to cure her. So he tried various medicines, and they didn't really work.
Yeah.
but he tried some newfangled electrical equipment because they were super into the power of electricity, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And it didn't really work. So then he tried my personal favorite, X-rays.
To like
Which,
cure her? Is that what he's
well, because,
X-rays to like
yeah, to cure her. Well,
why?
there was a period of time in which they thought that, like, I guess the radiation of the X-rays could do healthful things. I remember X-rays being a potential form of treatment before they discovered that it actually shrivels up your insides if you
Right.
have them on too long. But, you
Right.
know, you live, you learn. And he constantly was professing his love to her and for her and showered her with gifts. He bought her expensive clothing, he bought her nice jewelry. But none of these things worked, and Elena died a few months later, sending poor Tanzler into a deep heartbreak.
Mhm.
Even though no sources can confirm that Elena returned any of his love professions. Like, I, one,
Yeah,
she was
like
really
if
fucking sick, so she probably didn't give a damn at all. But,
yeah.
like, no one was like, yeah, she loved him too, and they were gonna, like, plan their life together or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, none of that is, like, she seemed rather indifferent to the whole thing. So, okay. But Tansler was heartbroken. His true love, his only love, is dead.
Never mind his wife, who's the mother of his children.
Oh yeah, she's long forgotten. It's
I
fine.
know, it's
It's
like,
like
meh.
he changed his name. He's a whole new person now, Claire. That's how it works. You just move to another town. You start
Change your
going by a
name.
different name, and it's
It's
fine.
fine.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Mhm. But so he did the only thing he thought he could, and just felt truly compelled to help out Elena's family with the burial, and he purchased a very expensive mausoleum and paid for Elena to be buried there. And it sounds like a really super nice thing to do. Her family had been hit but with tuberculosis pretty hard. Most of the family had died. There wasn't a whole lot of money. Everybody was having
Right.
a hard time. Uh, but when they locked her body inside the mausoleum, there's only one key, and Tanzler kept it. So you
Because
know where this is going.
I know where this is
This is
going.
not going to be great. But
Rose for Emily. That's all I gotta say.
for the next 2 years, Tanzler visited Elena's body every single night. He claimed that Elena's spirit would come to him as he sat by her grave, well, mausoleum,
Yeah.
and that he would serenade her corpse with her favorite Spanish song every night.
He know her favorite Spanish song, or is he just making that up?
Who knows? I mean, this is all according to him.
I know. In his delusions, yes.
But after a couple of years, it just wasn't enough. He wanted to be even closer with his true love. So in April 1933, he stole the now 2 years dead body of
Mm,
Elena and took her home with him. It's normal.
mm,
That's what people do. It's completely healthy.
it is.
Apparently.
Oh my god, I cannot even. Because you know the embalming practices back then were probably not what they are now.
Well, and after 2 years, I'm just saying,
That's
man.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
Ugh,
Mm-mm.
God. Like, how do you even with? I just feel like at that point your body is probably almost like falling apart. Like maybe I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know. I don't know how the decomposition works, but it's just like,
Well,
bleh.
I will tell you that he didn't just like carry her out. He put her in a toy wagon so that he could wheel her out because
Oh
I imagine
well,
what you're
a
saying was
toy
problematic.
wagon.
A toy
Oh my
wagon.
god.
You know, little red little red
Like a
wagon, like yeah,
well, like was it red flyer or something like
There
that?
you go.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
just do dragging it
Radio
across
radio
the
like a radio flyer.
there it is. Radio flyer wagon with
No.
dead body, 2-year-old dead body. And you're just
Ugh.
walking through the cemetery with your little wagon
No,
behind you.
no,
You know.
no,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not cool, sir. Not cool. It's
He
like
would disagree
she
with you.
is long gone. She is not there.
No, because apparently during their nightly conversations where her spirit would come to him while he serenaded her corpse, uh,
Ugh.
her ghost slash spirit told him to take her, that he needed to take her body. So she told him that's what she wanted.
Wow.
Uh huh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. All right.
Mm-hmm. But you know, dead bodies don't look a whole lot like their
No.
alive counterparts, especially after two
No, they don't.
years.
No. No, they don't.
So Tansler had to, do some pretty extensive upkeep for his companion. I'm not even sure what word to use here. It's
Right? Like,
because it's the body of a person who has been dead for 2 years.
'cause at this point, you can't even. I mean, I guess at this point, she's an object, even though she's not. I don't know. Human doll. I don't know.
Actually, in fact, um, I'm gonna pause here for just a second because I need you to have some pictures. I needed to have
Mm,
sent this to you,
mm.
which is fine because it's in a draft. In those pictures that I have sent you, you'll see a picture of Carl Tanzler. You'll see a picture of Elena while she was alive, and you'll also see a picture of Elena after. Because part of that extensive upkeep that Tanzler had to provide was he used plaster of
Oh
Paris to
no.
make a face for her because, her flesh had desiccated and come off a bit. So he made a plaster of Paris face and
Oh my
replaced
gosh.
her now gone eyes with glass eyes. So thanks.
Oh, that's.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't even have words for how creepy looking that is.
Uh-huh.
I think
It
that
is
picture
the
just ate my soul.
it is the haunted doll of your nightmares, man. This
But
to
isn't
me
a
this is
doll, but it's a human corpse.
well, it's it
I
gets
know.
complicated. So
Yeah, I know.
we
'Cause
have the
once
creepy
I
ass
realized
mask.
what this story
Mhm.
was, I was like, oh, ooh,
So we
oh.
have the creepy mask that he
Yes.
has made of her face. Um but then we have to be concerned, what about her skeleton? It's shifted obviously, the muscles and the tendons have obviously like decomposed.
I mean, yeah, what do you yeah.
um, the things that keep it together. So, what would you do in that situation? Well, Claire, obviously,
Mhm.
the answer is coat hangers and wires.
No, no, that's
hmm
not the answer.
So he used piano wire, so never play a piano again, in order
No.
to keep the bones, the skeleton connected, so that it maintained its form. Its structure. I'm not sure how to go with this. It becomes more like creepy doll thing as we go on. So again, decomposing. Her hair eventually begins to fall out of her decomposing skull.
I mean, I just can't even imagine the smell at this point. I just like
Mm-hmm.
how that's
Yummy.
beyond disgusting.
It's yummy. Mm-hmm. But I
Mm,
mean, you can't have the love of your life without her hair. You especially when you loved her hair, her dark hair was part of the dream and the vision of his love and his true love. So he makes a wig out of her hair.
so he takes the hair that fell out and he makes a wig out of it.
He does. He also takes
That's
hair from apparently Elena's mother, I want to say, had some
What?
of her hair, because it's like one of those weird things that people did. They'd keep locks of dead people's hair or whatever. I don't know. But so like he took
Mm.
her hair from other places as well as from it falling out of the skull and turned it into a wig, sewed it onto a wig cap, I guess, and then put it back on her skull.
I mean, this is like something straight out of a Criminal Minds episode. That's all I gotta say. I mean, I'm pretty sure
Right?
I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a Criminal Minds episode that's similar to this.
It's like a whole other layer to like, the psycho Norman, the rocking chair thing.
Right,
It's
right,
it's a next step for me.
right,
But I mean, obviously a skeleton is not enough to make a person look like a human, to a living
right.
being anyway. So he ended up stuffing her torso with rags in order to help it retain a more normal shape.
Oh my gosh, this is. Bleh. I'm so glad I just ate lunch before we did this.
Yeah,
So
we're
glad.
we're eating lunch after this, so cool.
Mm.
I'm vegetarianing it today, definitely. Uh, as you mentioned, probably didn't smell super good. And,
No,
love knows no bounds, but noses still count. So he actually
right.
would bathe. I keep saying her because I'm not really sure at what point she is
Not a
still
her.
Elena
Like just
and more doll than remains, I guess. It gets
right.
very complicated to me in this story. But he bathed her in copious amounts of perfume in order to try and keep that stench at bay. And I'm like, can you imagine? One, I
No.
hate my number one pet peeve in walking like through the mall or a department store is the perfume counters because I can't
Right.
breathe. It's awful. Um,
Bath
sometimes
and
it gives
Body
me
Works
like an
is always
immediate
like,
headache. I'm like, God, I can't handle all the smells.
yeah, Bath and Body Works is always like, I just gotta run in and grab what I need and get out of there
Yes,
because if I
too many
don't,
smells.
I will like come out with like the worst headache.
But like, I feel like I would choose that over perfume trying to mask
Right.
the smell of human decay, because, oof. Oh.
I have a friend who is a police officer,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, that is the one smell that, like, once you've smelled it, like that, you
You never unknow it. You just
instantaneously,
know.
you
Mm-hmm.
know what that is, and it's like you walk in and you're like, there's a dead body in here, like
Mm-hmm.
it's somebody has died, something is dead, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I don't really know what that smells like, so. He was like, that is the one smell that's
Mm,
just like, once you've smelled it, you will never forget it, and you will always know what it is. And I'm just like, that's awful.
that is that's a thing to know, to not unknow again. Yeah.
Right.
Ugh.
You're just like, so I just can't imagine like having this continually decomposing body that you
No.
are soaking in perfume. Like,
Perfume. Oh.
like
So you have
depending,
like
like
that
perfume, I
horrible
feel like,
musk odor
oh,
of perfume, like that
no.
heavy, especially it's the 1920s. It's like this heavy musk scent because they didn't have deodorant yet, so everyone was like
Right, right.
perfuming the crap out of themselves. And I'm like, ew, 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 ugh. But
Like, I know I say things like, if something smells really bad, I'll be like, oh, it smells like death.
yeah.
Which I know it really doesn't, but
Hmm.
because I actually have never in fact smelled death, but
Well, you better knock on wood,
like
honey.
this takes that to a whole new level. Like it smelled like death. I just
Oi, oi. Blah. Um, as her skin began to
uh-huh.
go away and decompose. Sorry, it's so disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. Um, he would replace her skin with silk, pieces of silk that had been soaked in wax, because I guess it helped hold the shape.
Mold it, yeah, so it would
Hmm.
stay like a certain, yeah.
Which is why I'm like, at some point, other than like her skeleton, it's it's a doll with her skeleton inside is what it really truly
Yeah.
becomes, and it's
Yeah.
weird. He would clothe her in stockings and jewelry and gloves and get her all dressed up and make her look really nice. And of course,
As
Claire.
nice as she could look.
Well, I mean, I refer you back to an artist he was not.
No. No.
His plaster of Paris face is lacking.
Oh, it's the stuff of nightmares. I
Uh-huh.
mean,
Yes, yes, it is.
that picture. We gotta toss that up. Stuff
Oh
of
boy, are
nightmares.
we? Because
Because if
gotta
I have to see it, you all do too.
everybody has to see it. Yes. Um. So obviously, with all of this care that he was taking and her maintenance and make sure she didn't smell horrific and was nice and soft with her silk skin, he obviously kept her in the most logical place, which was in his bed.
I'm gonna go vomit now. I can't.
And
I'm telling
he,
you. Have you all read A Rose for Emily? Go read it.
I have
And then come
not,
back.
I
You
have
have
not,
not?
I have not
Oh,
read A Rose for Emily. No,
it is
who
a
wrote
short.
it?
Oh, I don't remember, but it's a short story we had to read in school. In fact, my dad made me read it before I actually had to read it in school because that's what you get when your dad is
Oh,
a.
well, then it's possible that I did, and I've just blocked it from my memory because I had your dad.
You did, but I don't
He
know if
might have,
he.
but I had him for freshman English. He probably didn't
Yeah,
make
I
us
don't
read
know. William Faulkner.
it.
Short
And
story by
maybe I
William
have.
Faulkner. Um. Anyway, basically, it's a man goes missing. Things start to smell bad around a certain house, and then like forever later, this woman dies, and they find his skeleton in her bed, and
Oh,
they find her hair on the skeleton. That is the
mm.
very short synopsized
You know,
version.
actually, I feel like maybe I have read that. I was sitting there
But
going, I don't remember there being like some dead woman in a bed somewhere. I'm like,
no,
oh,
it was a
but like it's
man.
the
It was
skeleton.
it
Like,
was the
okay.
man. Yeah. No, but she had killed him. I think it was one of those where he was gonna leave her. And so she
Well,
killed him.
obviously,
Yeah, she killed him and then she kept his body. But it was one of those where like, ew, it smells bad. But it's just like, oh, it's fine. It's
that's
whatever.
fine.
And it kind of, goes away. And then it's like as time goes on, then she finally dies. And when they go into the house, it's like there's a skeleton in her bed. And they're like, and that's how it ends. Is it's like, oh, we found a silver hair on the skeleton. And you're like, oh God, she was sleeping with a dead person. And I'm like, this is such a great story to have your high school students read about necrophilia. I appreciate
Absolutely.
this. Yeah.
I mean, you
Mm,
gotta. True love knows no bounds, Claire.
it's true. I mean, in A Rose for Emily and Carl Tanzler. I mean,
For good old Hansel. Well, and so he maintained this unique relationship for 7 years.
is that what we're calling this? A unique
That's
relationship?
what I'm choosing. I'm choosing well, because in his eyes, he was in a relationship. Like he was in it for the long haul and
What
was
year? What
just
year was all this going on?
1931. No, wait, 1933 is when he stole her. So at this point, we're
So he
like,
could. So William Faulkner might have given him that idea because
uh-huh,
this story was written in 1930.
uh-huh.
Just yeah.
Interesting.
So
Interesting. Creepy.
I
Creepy.
know, right?
So 7 years. Like 7 years in his bed,
Decomposing.
and being replaced with other things.
Mm.
It's really
So,
just
like, but you said the end of it, it is literally
I mean,
a
yeah.
doll with just her skeleton.
Yeah, I mean, like he
Because
has replaced the skin, he's replaced her face, he's replaced her. I mean, like her hair technically is still her hair, but it's sewn into a wig cap, so
hmm
it gets it's she's as far as I could tell, like it sounds to me when I in everything I read that it was basically just a skeleton encased in
plaster and wax and
and yeah, it's
ugh.
weird. It's like literally
Mm.
turning a person into a doll after they're dead. A terrifying doll. A doll of horror.
Right. Yes.
But after about 7 years, Elena's family was getting suspicious. And because there had been rumors going around that he had been sleeping with remains, and that
Buh.
one person claimed to have seen him dancing with the corpse. Like he could see them through a window, and he's like, saw him dancing with her doll corpse. I
Oh,
don't really know. Um,
her
so they
doll pet
end up,
corpse
yeah,
body. It's like,
her the weird whatever horror. This is like, I don't even know. I can't,
no.
I can't process it. Like, it's one of those things. Thank God this happened almost 100 years ago, because like it's really fucking disturbing and gross. I need that kind of distance to make this funny.
Right.
To be
Because you're
like,
like,
what
it
the
wasn't like this
hell,
happened 2 years ago.
guys? It's like, okay. And so the family confronts him. They confront him at home and like force their way in, where they find her corpse laying in his bed. This
Oh, God, those
weird
poor people.
doll version with her bones inside. Like, I mean, it is such a weird.
Mm,
I can't. I mean, like, I can't even fathom what that's like. To know that that's her remains.
mm.
Like, I don't. I don't know.
I feel so bad for her family. I really do. It's just
Right.
like, wow.
So he, of course, was arrested, but was only charged with grave robbing because, I mean, really,
I
that's
mean,
all he
could
had
you
done.
not be like like not what is it? Abuse of a corpse, corpse
I don't know if
abuse.
that was a thing yet. I don't know if
Okay.
that was a. I mean, he wasn't charged with that, so my guess is that it wasn't. Maybe that came about as a result of this kind of weird shit.
Right. I mean, it's true.
But so he was charged with grave robbing, but it had been like 7 years since he had done that, which was longer than the statute of limitations. So
Oh gosh. So he really
he
didn't.
he didn't serve like any jail time or anything.
Gosh almighty.
The body, or what was left, the remains of Elena at that point. I'm not really sure at that point. Like, did they take off all the things? I don't know. I don't. I have questions, but they're
I mean,
like
at this point,
macabre
she has been
questions.
dead for
She's
9 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
and has been out instead of like
In
encased
yes,
somewhere. So
or 7. Yeah.
as again, my best guess is that she's basically a skeleton that has been encased in this weird doll thing. But her body was eventually reburied in an unmarked grave to prevent further issues so that he couldn't find her
Mhm.
again.
Right. 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 Right.
But before that, it was put on public display at a funeral home and viewed by 6,800 people. And that's where that creepy picture
Why?
comes from. Because I don't know, it's the 40s at this point. They're crazy.
Oh,
So I was like, why would anyone
insane.
do that? Why would you view.
For the people who are curious and want to
Well,
know
but
what was
why would a
happening?
family let
I
it
don't know.
happen? Like, why? What is even going on? I don't understand. I have so many questions.
Yeah, like yeah, especially like her family. Like I can't imagine that they would have wanted that to happen.
No.
That's insane.
But she was eventually quietly, peacefully reinterred in an unmarked grave so that she could have a peaceful remainder of afterlife
Oh my gosh.
after that horrific ordeal. Tanzler, of course, as I said, did not serve any jail time. He ended up returning to his wife in Zephyr Hills,
Wow.
or at least near his wife. It got kind of confusing in what I read.
Gotcha.
That maybe they didn't really live together, but she did seem to help care for him and helped him get his American citizenship. So which I was like, can you become an American citizen after doing that? But whatever,
Right. Yeah.
whatever. Um, but they must have lived somewhat separate.
I
So
mean,
at
I
this
don't blame
point,
her
well,
at this
Brian,
point. It's like,
it's like, you've been doing what now,
I
hon?
know,
Okay,
right?
okay. So at this point, he was separated from his love, aka his obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tanzler ended up using a death mask of Elena's face to create a life-sized effigy of Elena
Mm.
with none of her actual living, without any of her remains at that point. And he lived with his effigy of Elena for the remainder of his life, which is why I'm assuming he lived somewhat separate.
I
And
can't imagine his wife would have been okay with that.
he died in 1952 at the age of 75.
Wow.
He died otherwise alone, just him and his
Mm-hmm.
effigy of Elena. And his body wasn't discovered for like 3 weeks because like nobody was
Um.
taking care
Mm,
of him.
mm.
And some of the rumors claim that when he was found, he was holding the effigy of Elena.
Of course he was. Um. I also a little tidbit on this. They also said with this doll thing that he had created that he had also used some kind of like tube to create a hole for like vagina purposes. So
I
he
did
was
not come
actually
across that anywhere.
you did not. Okay, but I
No.
I think I heard this in another podcast or something, but it was like insinuated that he was actually having like some sort of sex
With the.
with
Mm-hmm.
which at that point you're like, but it's not if it was just the skeleton and the plaster.
Yeah, it's like
It's like,
it's
is it?
not really it's a doll. He created a sex doll with a
Right,
skeleton inside. Like it's
right, right,
bizarre.
right.
I mean, he might well have. I mean, honestly, he went way over of anything I could ever
Oh,
consider
right, right,
normal or
right,
rational. So why not add sex with his weird doll creation?
right.
Teach their own.
Woo, that was a doozy.
But that is my story of hopelessly devoted Carl Tanzler.
Oh my god. I can't even with that. That's
I know it
once
is
it was like once you
specific.
said her name for whatever reason, I
Uh
was like,
huh.
oh my god, I know what story this
It
is,
was
and
like
this
I'm
is
sure you'd heard because I've
disgusting.
heard it on podcasts before, but
Right, right, right.
it's just like bleh.
I know it is. It's just like this is disgusting.
So what story have you brought us for your wild card?
I mean, I guess this could fall under like true crime ish. I mean, yeah, I would say so. But anyway, Starlight Tours is what I'm going to be talking about.
Okay.
And I got my sources from All That's Interesting, Wikipedia, Grunge, and a Washington Post article from
Hmm.
2003 about this. So let's see. And this one's more recent. So, um,
Okay.
yeah, here's just like back in the 1800s. Mine is
Mm-hmm.
like when we were in high school, middle school, high school ish.
Okay. Okay.
On November 29th, 1990, the body of a First Nation Cree. This happens in Canada, Saskatchewan, Canada. And a lot of these people are they prefer to be instead of like Indigenous First Nation.
Mm-hmm.
But this 17-year-old First Nation Cree, his name was Neil Stonechild. His body was found in a field outside of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and construction workers discovered his body was frozen, and he was wearing only a light jacket, jeans, and one shoe. And the temps the night before had been negative 18 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was
Hmm.
pretty fucking cold.
Yeah, that's not survivable there.
No, no, no. And obviously, Stone Child had died of hypothermia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that when they took his body to the funeral home and they had done all this stuff, his family said that he had had cuts on his face. Like there was a cut that went across his nose, the bridge of his nose. He had gash
Mm-hmm.
on his head. It looked like his nose was broken,
Hmm.
and he had marks on his wrists and his hands, like scratches, like around his wrists, like he'd been restrained. Um, The last time Stonechild had been seen, according to his friend Jason Roy,
Mm-hmm.
he was in the back of a police car. And Roy said that Stonechild and they've been drinking and they drank most of a 40-ounce bottle of vodka. They were out having a good time, basically drunk in public.
Right.
And but he didn't tell people this until like 10 years after the fact.
Hmm.
Like when it happened, it was basically like, oh, he left at 11:30 and I blacked out. But in 2000, he said that Stonechild had been picked up by police, put in the back of a cruiser, had a gash on his head, he was bleeding, and he was begging him, saying, "Jay, help me! They're going to kill me." And then
Oh God.
and then 5 days later, his body was found. So this particular death brought to light, I mean, more mainstream, I guess, which it had always been like rumors about it, but what are known as Starlight Tours. And it's a series of suspicious deaths of First Nation Canadians in the Saskatoon area. And some of the earliest deaths reported were in 1976, but the most well known happened during the 90s and 2000s. The one in 76 was May 22nd, and it wasn't really a death, but they took these people out and dropped them off. Three indigenous First Nation people. It was a woman. Hadn't seen any names. A woman who was 8 months pregnant, and then two men. They were taken from a party by Constable Ken King, and he drove them to the outskirts of the Saskatoon city near the Queen Elizabeth Power Station and left them in deadly sub-zero temps, like Stonechild was found. The area was far enough away from houses or any businesses that no one hear them call for help. And King had arrested them. Like his citation was for having liquor in a place other than a dwelling. But
What?
technically, yeah, having liquor in a place other than a dwelling.
Okay.
But he neglected to actually charge them. So, but these three people survived and they came back, pressed charges. King was charged with discreditable conduct and neglect of duty. He was found guilty, but he was only fined $200, which
Holy
was
shit.
only like a week's pay for him.
Yeah.
So,
You almost killed 3 people.
right.
It's fine.
So, confirmed deaths were caused. These deaths were caused by members of the Saskatoon Police Service. Like I said, police officers would arrest First Nation people, mostly men,
Mm-hmm.
for alleged drunken and disorderly behavior. Sometimes didn't have a cause, just for the hell of it, you know. And the police would drive them out to the middle of nowhere, outskirts of town, just leave them, abandon them in sub-zero temps, and they were left to try to walk back to town, but they would usually freeze to death.
That is horrific. I feel like
Yeah.
I've seen this, but like in like a fictionalized story version. So
Ah, well, this is
like
this is not
obviously it was
fictional,
based on a real thing. I'm like, holy
right?
fucking shit, this is awful.
Right. So 10 years after Stonechild's body was found, January 28th in 2000, a First Nation Cree man named Daryl Knight was picked up by police, and it said that he was at his uncle's apartment. He had been drinking. There had been an argument that had moved outside the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
He was shouting obscenities. The police were called. And so they put him in the back of the cruiser, and he assumed they were taking him to the drunk tank, but they took him on a Starlight tour 3 miles outside the city. Um, they yanked him out of the car, and he said that they didn't pull his head down, and so they bashed his head against the top of the door jam
Mm-hmm.
thing on the car, and they yell at him. They're like, "Get the fuck out of here, you fucking Indian!" They
Mm-hmm.
slammed him face down on the trunk, uncuffed him, and just left him standing outside. They get back in the car, and he's like, I'm going to freeze out here. What's wrong with you guys?
Mhm.
And he said, the cop said, that's your fucking problem, and drove off. So
Wow.
he was only wearing a t-shirt, a jean jacket, jeans, and running shoes.
Wow.
So not dressed for negative
Right.
temperature, negative temps. So, but he walked 2 miles to that Queen Elizabeth power station, and he went up and he like banged on the door, and a night watchman saw him and was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" And he was like, "Let me in, I'm freezing."
Mhm.
And so the night watchman opened the door, and he was able to call a taxi, and he took a taxi back in to
Mhm.
town. And so later, when all this came out, like when he got to when the taxi dropped him off, he told the guy, he was like, I don't have money right now. Let me run in and get it and I'll bring it back out. And he left his coat and his insurance or his health card.
Mhm.
So to be like, here, keep this. I will be right back. So he ran
Mhm.
in and got the money and brought it back, but he only took his jacket. He didn't keep he didn't grab his health card. So the
Oh,
taxi
okay.
driver still had his health card and that actually helped him prove
That this had happened. Yeah.
that he had taken this guy back home. So when they were called to testify, that because they were
Mhm.
witnesses, he was like, "Yeah, I still have this guy's health card. I had it," which I was like, "That's nice that you were able to hang on to that."
Mhm.
So, one day after his night's ordeal, the body of Rodney Nastus was discovered, and it was shirtless, didn't have a shirt on, and it was in the same area on the outskirts where Daryl Knight had been dropped off. And so after this, they start doing these inquests, and doesn't determine guilt or innocence. It's just basically these juries decide, like, yes, this is where this happened, yes, this is
Mhm.
when this happened, yes, this is actually what caused this person's death, but doesn't actually like point a finger at anybody. It's just
Right.
like, yes, it was this, yes, it was that. So the inquest into his death was just like, yes, it was hypothermia. Like, it
Okay.
was like, okay, you know.
It's like,
And then,
and
right, on February 3rd, 2000, a guy named Lawrence Wegner was also found in that same area where Daryl Knight had been ditched. And he was only wearing a t shirt, jeans, and socks. And he had last been seen early morning, January 31st. So he had been missing for several days.
Mhm.
And again, the inquest was like, how he got there was undetermined,
Right.
but it was hypothermia. And it was just like reading these, I'm like, this is frustrating.
Yes.
And
Like,
so,
no
yeah,
wonder no one trusts cops. Like, to know that there are cops out there who did this shit. Like,
right.
fuck that.
And then
Fuck that.
and then in January 19th, 2000, a guy named Lloyd Dusty Horn, the day after he had been picked up by police for public intoxication, he was found dead, hypothermia. So that was like, great, awesome. I'm like, what good are these inquests? Y'all need to like point
Yeah.
the finger at somebody. Um, and a woman named Darcy Ironchild, I don't know if it's any relation
Mhm.
or no, that other guy's name was Stonechild, sorry. But Darcy Ironchild, 33, February 19th, 2000, um, after the police had picked her up on February 18th for public intoxication. And they said they released her around midnight and sent her home in a taxi. And the inquest jury said the death was an accidental OD from chloral hydrate, which is the stuff you mix in a drink when they say, I'm going to give you a Mickey.
Right.
So, um, don't know if they drugged her,
Mhm.
but they said they put her in a taxi. But here's the thing, when they pick these people up, they do not document it at all. They don't say that they picked this person up. They don't take
Right.
them to a police station. They have no documentation. There's no paperwork filled out. That's why
That is
none of this was,
unbelievable.
you
Because
know,
it's like,
yeah,
why would, if you're not documenting it, then you know you're doing something nefarious.
right, right. And so it was all this time, like these rumors of Starlight Tours have been happening,
Mhm.
but nobody had proof. It was just like, But because Daryl Knight survived
Mm-hmm.
his Starlight Tour, he was able to identify the officers. It was Constables Dan Hatchin and Ken Munson. And like I said, up until then, there had always been rumors of these Starlight Tours, but no one could prove it
Mm-hmm.
until Daryl Knight made it back alive. And so he accused the officers, he started receiving death threats because that's how terrible people are.
Right.
But the officers were convicted of unlawful confinement in 2001 because, like, once they did not take him to the station,
Mm-hmm.
like, at that point, that was when it was considered unlawful confinement because your job was to take him from
Right.
this point to here, and they did not do that. And so they got 8 months in prison, and they're now free. Hooray.
They murdered several people, but they got
Right.
8 months in prison.
Uh-huh.
Fuck that shit.
Because there really was, like, not a whole lot of proof. It was just his word
Right.
against theirs. But their defense was that Daryl Knight had just requested them to drop him off. That it was basically, he said, drop me off anywhere, just don't take me in and charge me. And it just so happened that where they dropped him off, that's where they were.
It was the
That
middle of nowhere where he would probably
yeah,
die. Awesome.
that was their defense. Was, oh well, he told us to do it, and I'm like, since when do police officers just do what the person in the back of the cruiser tells them?
Yeah, no kidding.
What? That gross. So after the convictions, both of them were fired. Thank God.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good.
I mean, right. And so Chief Russell Sabo, at the time, he apologized and admitted to the existence of the Starlight Tours. And he said that they probably happened more than once. Quote, and we fully admit that. In fact, on behalf of the police department, I want to apologize. It's quite conceivable there were other times. I think it's more important we take ownership when we do something wrong and correct the behavior. So, I mean, they've been sort of punished,
I
but
guess. But,
I
like,
mean,
how
right,
many of their officers were doing this?
right. And so that's the thing, is it's just nobody really knows because there was, and that was part of it too, is like, no documentation on any of
Mm-hmm.
this. And so this has been going on since the 70s and just really kind of brought to light now, but basically because Daryl Knight survived.
Wow.
But he's also afraid. He's moved back to a reservation out of the city
Mm-hmm.
because he's afraid, and he said not really so much for the people, but like law enforcement, because it's like he's been back a couple times and some shady things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And one time he did get hit by a car and it
Oh, God.
broke his legs, and he was on crutches. So
Yeah.
it's like he feels like if he goes back into Saskatoon, that
Yeah.
the police force is kind of out to get him, which, I mean, that's fair.
Well, and I'm like, the entire police force should have been fired because they fucking knew shit was going on even if they weren't
Right.
doing it, which means they're all co-conspirators and they all need to go to prison. So, like, no, no, all gone, all of them.
And what was really sucky was, like, for the first one, Neil Stonechild, I mean, he's 17.
Yeah.
And the coroner, so his family said that they had all those marks on his body.
Hmm.
He had the handcuffs on his wrists, and he obviously had been beaten. The
Hmm.
coroner did not make any note of that. It was just hypothermia, straight out. Did not make
Wow.
any note of any abrasions on his face, on his wrists. But his family saw his body at the
Yeah.
funeral home, afterwards. And so they were talking about how something else had happened other than him just freezing to death. Like, he had obviously been beaten, you know, had some kind of altercation.
Like, I can't
And
even imagine, like, if it were like my family, like, and they weren't right, like they were making no note of very obvious,
right.
wounds or things. Like, what the fuck are you gonna like?
And the one guy, the Lawrence Wegner guy, his mom said that when he had left the house, that he did have on a coat,
Mm-hmm.
but he was found without the coat. So
Mm-hmm.
she's like, they took it.
Yeah.
They left him out there without the coat and in his sock. I think he was the one who was in his socks. It's just like, yeah. Yeah, t-shirt,
How
jeans, and socks.
horrific.
And so these people are out there trying to walk back into town, but they freeze to
Mm-hmm.
death because
They
and
don't, yeah.
they said the one reason that Daryl Knight probably survived is because he had lived there his entire life and he knew the area. So he knew where to go, but some of these people had not just grown up there. They had,
Right.
transplanted or visiting whatever, so they didn't know that outskirt area, I guess didn't know where the power station was, power plant,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. So if they had known, they might have known where to go, but they didn't. So you just take off walking trying to find something, but you're so far from any kind of house or
Yeah.
business that you can't, you're just out there. And obviously no cell phone, no anything. So
That is horrific. Ugh. God. That's a terrible story.
it is a terrible story. It is a very terrible
I
story,
guess
and
that's the
I hate
the
that it
theme of our
happened.
episode are terrible stories, but
Right. And I
yeesh.
hate that it happened because it's just
Well,
like,
and it's so much worse knowing that like this shit was happening not that long ago. It gets
right,
it's it's
100%.
it's easier to come to terms with like the hate and vitriol of generations past, but like this is our time. Like we were
Right. And
and
I
to be
was,
like that people think this is okay. Ugh.
yeah,
That enough people thought it was okay in a police situation. Like all enough cops thought this was okay that they didn't do anything about it.
right. I think it was, yeah, it was the Washington Post article talked about too, like how, you know, Canadian First Nation, when they
Mhm.
started being colonized, that they were more into like assimilation and segregation, unlike the US that was just like, we're gonna exterminate you.
Right, yes.
And it wasn't
Yeah, we
even, and it
fuck.
was, and that point, it almost wasn't even segregation. It was just like, we're gonna put you in this teeny tiny little spot and just, yeah, that kind of thing. So, but still, they've had their, you know, the racism against them just as bad as
Mhm.
indigenous people, Native Americans in America. It's, you know, they tried, because they talked about how they started having people who were advocates for First Nation people who have been arrested and things like that. And that's when these Starlight Tours started. Because when they started getting people to help them, like lawyers and advocates and
Mhm.
things like that. And so then it was just like, well, we're just not going to document it. We're going to just. And you're like, but how did they get there?
Mhm.
They're. Jeez. Yeah. I just can't imagine doing that.
No. Well, I can't imagine having that kind of disregard for any people.
Right.
Like I can imagine a specific person having a specific disregard to that level for like a person
One,
because
yes,
of
one person who's done them
like
wrong.
a lot of whatever.
Yeah.
Like I mean I read murder mysteries. I get that. But like as a group to just be like I fucking hate your kind, so I'm gonna just make sure you die a horrific death. Like, what the hell? I don't understand that at all.
But yeah,
Ugh,
terrible story. It
terrible,
sucks.
terrible story.
Mhm.
On that note,
Yes.
it must be tarot time with April. A spooky spooky. Are we ready to see what the cards have in store for us this week?
Yes, let's do it.
I'm hoping for some good cards. You might notice I festivized my tarot table with some ornaments.
I saw that. Some little baubles. I
little
enjoy it.
little shiny baubles to welcome the holiday season. All right. Tell me when to stop. So, we gave you two terrible stories of horrors. Um, so my hope is that that does not like sway the cards
Right.
to giving us our own nightmares. Because I don't
Stop.
need no creepy dolls, no creepy human dolls, man. Like
No.
none of
Mm-mm.
that. None of that.
Nope. 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 Not here for that.
Not not here for that. Okay. So we're gonna start a week with the I think I might have flipped these upside down. The Two of Swords.
Great. It's a sword card. Woo.
I did flip these upside down. So I'm gonna fix that. We're gonna continue our week with the Nine of Pentacles. And we're gonna end our week with the Six of Pentacles.
Whoa.
So some nice, very low-key, normal daily life strife cards.
Gotcha. Right.
You know, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you just
That's
need...
true.
Oh, we've had this before. At least I have. Two of Swords. I think there's a point in nearly everyone's life where you realize that you're alone.
We have had this one. It was, but yeah, we have had this one.
Ugh.
We're alone. Great.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We've all got someone theoretically we didn't hatch. As you grow older, though, I realize that the process of growing up will strip people away from you. Friends will betray you. People will go weird and stop calling. Your family isn't perfect, and suddenly you look around and instead of two tables full of cousins on Thanksgiving, it's just you and likely a cat.
Yes,
Well,
we've had this one.
and this Thanksgiving, it was just me and Spencer and two cats.
There you go.
Hmm. Or maybe you're lonely and in a relationship. There isn't anything lonelier in the world than sharing a bed with someone you can't talk to. It's empty and devaluing and sad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear. Okay. I'm going to skip over a bunch here. However, there is strength in solitude, and I call the Two of Swords the shut the hell up so I can hear myself think card. It's about being alone. Let's see. Uh, okay. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do appreciate the whole like you need to learn how to be alone.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
you
and
be self-sufficient. Be
so in this card, you can't see it very well, but the cat is blindfolded and holding two swords.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it's she doesn't need external influence for the decision she needs to make. She doesn't need the distraction. She's alone and okay with that. This is something she needs to figure out for herself. So, when you realize that you don't need the world's chatter to make sense of your life, the moment when you wander away by the shore, pull up a seat on a bench and blindfold yourself against distraction. So it's more about being on your own, making
Yes.
decisions, and not being distracted by the world. So,
Right.
I mean, that's fine. It's not a bad card. I don't mind it. Because being alone is not the same as being lonely.
That's true. That is true.
Alright. The Nine of Pentacles. Okay. This card speaks to gratitude and confidence. It's about treating yourself as well as you treat the people you love, and is the result of hard work and perseverance. That's cool.
Treat yourself.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. That's all it's about. So there's no avarice. There's no insecurity. This is a woman at peace in her garden. Okay. Treat yourself well. Treat people you love well. Nice. Cool.
Simple. I like it.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. I'm here for that. Which leaves us with the Six The Six of Pentacles. This card is about generosity, both
Ah,
spiritual and financial. I think we've had this before. Can you give without judging? Can you take without feeling humiliated? Can you allow yourself to enter into the ebb and flow of community? I think this card gets a bad rap because people perceive it as begging. That's not really accurate. Long ago, there were no charity organizations, no United Way, no Human Rights Council. So if you're going to give to those less fortunate to you, then you gave it to people less fortunate than you.
right.
If we take the money aspect away from the pentacles, we can call this generosity of spirit, of body, or of mind. This can be listening to a friend, being a kind and caring lover, helping a child find their lost parent. When you give of yourself, that's the Six of Pentacles. Money is in there too, but money is just a tool. It's what you do with it that's important. So we're going to go be on our own to make some decisions, and then we're going to have our nice peace and happiness, and then we're going to help give that to others, is what that sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So, cool. That seems
It's
fine.
very apropos for after Thanksgiving.
All right. So that brings us back to what will be our topic for next week, Claire?
Well,
What is going to be on our
wheel
of
of fate.
fate? I'm excited and scared and
Faye.
yes! Oh, I willed it into the universe! I willed it. I willed it because I almost did a Fae story today. And I was like, no, April, you're going to save your Fae stories for when you finally get Fae. And I'm excited. It's going to be dark and it's going to be bizarre. And that's perfect for Christmas.
Perfect. Fine.
The horror stories of the Fae. Love
Happy
it.
Christmas.
I'm so excited.
I know. It's going to be awesome.
Okay. That's amazing. Great, great, great. Come back next week. You're going to love it. Super amazing. Creepy, spooky Fae things out there, man. Whoa. All right.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, until then, you can find us and all the things and all the places at
Brunch and Judge.
please like, follow, subscribe, comment. It's amazing how much algorithms are weighted by not just like likes, but by comments. So the more you comment, the better. Helps us get seen
Yes.
more. It makes the algorithm gods happy.
It's true.
And you can send us more topics for our wheel or any stories that you would like us to include in our storytelling. And you can send those to
brunchandjudge@gmail.com.
And until next time, keep on brunchin'
And keep on judging.
Bye.
Bye.